Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Jones with Full Plate Living, and I am excited to have you with us for today's workshop. Before we get started, I do want to do a couple introductions. One, first of all, of course, I'd like to welcome PhD nutritionist Diana Fleming. She's going to talk to us about bacteria today. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Michelle. So good to be here. And hello, everybody else.
Excellent. And then I'd also like to introduce to you Amy Hannes. Amy is going to be covering our chat for us today and all of our technical ins and outs to make sure that this goes smoothly.
Yeah, so if you have not found the chat yet, that is the first thing to do. Find the chat. So many people I see are saying hello, hi Diana, hello from Stuart, Florida, from Huntsville, North Carolina, Fort Worth, Texas, from all over. And that's one thing we love about doing these is that you can join us from wherever in the world you are. So we're so happy. Say hi, tell us where you're joining us from. This is technology, right? So don't we love it when it works perfectly like it should, right? But if you have issues hearing us or seeing us, refresh your screen, okay? Refresh your connection. You might even try a different connection sometimes. We have found that the Chrome browser works really well for the service that we use to do these workshops for you. So that can also be a different browser that you use or try a different browser that you might have already on your device. Other than that, ask your questions in the chat area too. We'll be doing a live Q&A time at the end. It's one of our favorite things to do. So ask your questions there. I'll flag them as questions and then we'll try to get to as many of them as we can at the end of our presentation on the healthy gut microbiome. So this is exciting stuff. Thanks for doing this for us, Diana.
Amy, if somebody can't hear us, what should they do?
Oh, if they can't hear us or see us, refresh your screen. Refresh your screen or try a different browser. Another thing too is that sometimes we have connection issues, and so if we pop off, give us a second to pop back on. So you know, just be patient with it. It is technology, but if you as I said, if you have questions or you can't hear us or see us, chat us in the chat area as well, and we'll see what we can suggest to try.
Thank you, Amy. Well, I think we got everything covered. So Diana, we're ready to hear all about the healthy gut microbiome.
So I am so excited to be talking about this with you and with Michelle. This is such an exciting topic. So it's important for us to realize there's a sense in which we're never really alone, even if we're by ourselves. That's because our skin is covered with millions of microscopic organisms. They're invisible to the naked eye, and I'm kind of really glad they are. And they're all over our skin, in our nose, in our mouth, throat, reproductive organs. And the good news is, don't worry, most of them are there to benefit us. And if you can imagine, they're in our mouth and throat. They're also inside us in the gastrointestinal tract, which is the fancy word for the digestive tract. This is where we break down, digest our food, and nourish our body, provide fuel. There are trillions of microorganisms in our digestive tract. You can see from the slide, predominantly bacteria, different bacterial species. About 90% of the microorganisms are bacteria, and then there's lesser amounts of viruses, yeast, archaea, parasites, fungi, and protozoa. Now, in that whole digestive tract, they are mostly concentrated in one place. That is the end of the digestive tract, the large intestine or the colon. And it is estimated there are 39 trillion microorganisms, mostly bacteria, living in our colon. And
a lot.
I know, that's 12 zeros, by the way. And there are scientists who have said that this is the most densely populated collection of microbes on the planet. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to take their word for it. Now, before we proceed into this, in more detail, there are 4 important terms that we want to understand the meaning for and the definition of in simple terms. And the first one is the word gut.
So when you say gut, we're not talking about the derogatory term that we give our midsection. We're talking about our digestive tract.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the whole digestive tract can be called the gut, but in this area of research, they're using the word gut to focus on the large intestine primarily. So when we say gut, we're talking about the large intestine. And then the next term is gut bacteria.
Which would be all the bacteria that lives in the gut, so in the large intestine, in the colon. And generally speaking, there's other organisms in there, but we're calling them all bacteria because most of them are bacteria.
Exactly right. Michelle's got this. And the next term is gut microbiota. That's just a fancy term for
all the living things in the gut, not just the bacteria, all of them.
right. And then the next term, gut microbiome, which is in our title. That word microbiome refers to the collective genetic material of all the microorganisms. These two words, microbiota and microbiome, do not mean the same thing, but they're used interchangeably in this area of study and research. So that's what we're going to do in our presentation. So let's dive into this. So, you know, until recently, and not a lot of attention was paid to all these microorganisms in our colon. And, you know, come on, we're talking about the bugs in our poop, right? How in the world can that have any impact on human health? That's the first reason. Secondly, the technology was not there to study these microorganisms, to study these bacteria. But now, starting in 2006, scientists can study their RNA, their DNA, what they can do, their functional capacity, and what they make, their metabolites. So now we have an explosion of research since then in this area of the gut microbiome. In fact, about 50,000 papers have been published in the last 5 years alone. That's
a lot of data and knowledge. That's exciting, very exciting.
right. So let me give you the bottom line. The bottom line from this research so far is there's an extremely intimate relationship between our gut bacteria and us in sickness and in health. And what we know so far from the research is that these bacteria in our colon impact our physiology, our immune system, our brain health, our metabolism, our nutrition, even gene expression. So these bacteria, which are not even human, they're not some sideshow. These bacteria are central to human health.
They're involved in everything. So really the important question then is, how do we get a healthy microbiome, since that seems to affect every aspect of our health?
Yeah, this is the key question. This is the question we want to answer for you in a way that you can do something about it. So in order to answer that, we need to understand there are two broad categories of gut bacteria. There are the beneficial health promoting bacterial species. We're going to call them the good guys, because they're there to help us be healthy. And then there are the pathogenic disease promoting bacterial species. We're going to call them the bad guys, because they can make us sick. So what two characteristics constitute a healthy gut microbiome? Basically, it's balance and harmony defined by these two essential characteristics. First, and this is sort of common sense, you want the good gut bacteria to outnumber the bad gut bacteria. The good gut bacteria actually suppress, keep in check the bad guys. So we obviously want the good guys to outnumber the bad guys. And then the second thing is, we want great diversity of bacterial species among the good gut bacteria. So there's somewhere up to 1,000 different bacterial species, even more than that now. I'm sure they're going to discover more. But we want at least 3 to 1,000 different bacterial species in our gut. If we have these two things, then we can say we have a healthy gut microbiome.
So since the first thing is to get the good guys to outnumber the bad guys, what can we do to do that? What can we do to increase the amount of good bacteria in our gut?
Right. So think about it. These bacteria are in our colon. They're anaerobic. That means they don't require oxygen. There's no oxygen there. They are dependent on fuel so they can live. You know, like we need fuel to live, they need fuel to live. But they are dependent on what we eat. So if we want them to thrive, then we need to feed them what makes them thrive. We need to feed them their preferred food, right? So guess what that is?
Ooh. Oh, okay. I was right. Fiber, fiber, fiber.
Fiber, 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 yes. So the healthy gut bacteria thrive on fiber. Without fiber, bacteria, these good bacterial species languish and eventually die off. And now look, Full Plate has known for a long time a lot of different benefits to eating whole fiber foods. But when this research has exploded, we're like, wow, the importance of eating fiber is even more profound than we ever knew. So I want to visit this diagram briefly. You know, the digestive tract is where we eat our food, the body breaks it down, we absorb the nutrients into the bloodstream. That's done by the end of the small intestine. Whatever is not digested and absorbed moves into the large intestine or colon. It becomes part of the sewage disposal system. Well, guess what part of food does not get digested and broken down in the upper digestive tract?
I think this would be fun to actually bring to our chat. So
Okay.
what part of food does not get digested and it gets passed along? Any ideas?
Into the large intestine.
Fiber, fiber, fiber. There you go, Diana. Fiber.
Hey, you guys are A+ students. Okay. So, you know, a little bit of technicality. We don't have the digestive enzyme to break the fiber apart. And that's why it moves through the small intestine into the colon. But when it gets into the colon, the good gut bacteria love to ferment it. That's what they do. They ferment it. It provides them fuel, exactly, and it provides the energy for doing all the things they need to do. And we know that fiber is only found
in plants,
which
is why there's such a colorful picture up here. We have all the fruits and vegetables and beans and cooked whole grains. All of those provide a large variety of fiber.
Right. And nuts and seeds and even herbs.
Yeah. So the second part of having a healthy microbiome is this diversity question. So how do we get more diversity in the beneficial gut bacteria?
Right. So the American Gut Project, a wonderful bit of science, has discovered in their research the single most powerful predictor of diverse gut bacteria is the diversity of plants in your diet, the diversity of whole fiber foods that you eat. It kind of only makes sense. And here's a little visual that illustrates this. And it's important to know that each, you know, we talk about fiber as though it's one thing. There's a whole lot of different kinds of fibers, and each plant has their own particular diversity of fibers, their own fiber profile. So when you eat all kinds of different plants, you're going to get a diversity of fibers. And when you get a diversity of fibers, now you're going to promote diversity of beneficial gut bacteria. All different kinds, because certain ones like this fiber and certain ones prefer that fiber. And then when you have a lot of different bacterial species, you're going to have a diversity of healthy compounds that these bacteria actually make. And the end result for you is a healthy you.
Which is good news.
Yes.
Is there a number of a variety of foods that you need to eat to promote this healthy space where we want to get?
Right. So the American Gut Project has discovered, and they're studying the feces of people, not just in America, but all over the world. And the people who had the greatest diversity of fiber foods that they ate had the greatest diversity of bacterial species. And it was around 30 different fiber foods in a week. Now, listen, you don't need to limit yourself to 30. But, you know, it's a good goal to keep in mind, just like we talk about 40 grams of fiber. It's not, you don't have to limit yourself to that, but it's a good goal to be thinking about. So that's 30 a day.
Right. In a week, 30 different plant foods. And you did say that it does include herbs and it does include nuts and seeds as well.
Right.
So you've got fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, and herbs and nuts and seeds. That's a lot of different foods.
And think of all the different kinds of each category of fiber food, right? And so, you know, you might be thinking, oh, I could never eat 30 different fiber foods in a week. We're going to show you shortly that you could easily do that. So
I'm looking forward to about.
Yes.
But before we get there, so we know how to preserve this healthy state or how to help create it. How do we avoid having an unhealthy microbiome?
Right. And it's called, here you can see the term dysbiosis, the technical term, dis against life. So basically, you think about it, there's something that disrupts the balance and harmony of the gut bacteria so that the bad guys start to increase in number over the good guys. And that's what is going to create, unfortunately, an unhealthy gut microbiome. And that has a multitude of negative consequences: leaky gut, increased inflammation, a negative impact on the immune system. That's because the gut bacteria and the immune system are in constant communication and crosstalk. These good gut bacteria influence the development of the immune system and how strong it is and how healthy its response. So you want the good gut bacteria to predominate so you have a healthy immune system. And you can see on the screen, when you have dysbiosis or an unhealthy gut, you are going to increase your risk of every chronic disease and a lot of unhealthy conditions. So there are many factors that can influence this. And a lot of them are lifestyle factors: diet, sleep, exercise, stress management, alcohol, cigarette use, toxins, diseases, and prescription drugs and over-the-counter medications impact our gut microbiome. So I just want to talk about two of these briefly. And the reason I'm bringing up just prescriptive drugs is because 66% of adults in America are on at least one prescriptive drug. So prescriptive drugs are very common use in this country, as well as OTC meds. And we know from years of research that antibiotics are life-saving medications, no question about it. But we also know that not only do they destroy the bad gut bacteria, they also destroy the good ones as well. So research is now trying to explore, what do the prescription non-antibiotic drugs do to the gut microbiome? What do over-the-counter medications do? And the effects are complex. Some are positive, some are negative, some are a combination. So this is what we want to tell you. Two important take-home messages here. If you're on any prescription drugs or taking any OTC meds, talk to your doctor about what impact they are having on your gut microbiome. And secondly, no matter what you're taking in this area, support the good gut bacteria by always eating lots of whole fiber foods.
Yeah, you want to help the ones that are in there to proliferate and to keep growing instead of dying off.
Exactly. And then the last thing, and the important thing, is the standard American diet is the main, what you eat is the main determinant of your gut microbiome. That's because you eat at least 3 times a day, most people, every day of your life. So your food is constantly impacting whether you're going to have a healthy gut microbiome or an unhealthy one. And we know from research that the standard American diet is a low fiber diet. And there are many aspects of this diet that have a negative impact on the gut microbiome.
And what you feed, what you're eating, is what feeds the bacteria. I want to go back to that point that you made earlier because it's so true. So looking at this chart is really sad, and you can see how the good bacteria really is starving. If only 6% of the food consumed in the United States is the plant foods that the good bacteria grow off of, we've got to find a way to increase that, right? Processed foods don't have any fiber. Animal food, or if they do have fiber, it's very low. So they don't have enough fiber. Animal foods do not have fiber. They're not made with fiber because they're not plants. And then processed plant foods have so many other things in them that it kind of negates the fiber. So they're not a good source of fiber for the bacteria to stay healthy and to keep the good bacteria in control. So what can we do to change this? I mean, I'm sure we have a good message of hope.
We do. Lots of messages of hope. So you see the picture of the plate on the left. This is sort of the typical American way of eating. 75% is not fiber foods and only 25% is unprocessed fiber foods. And we simply want to flip that around as illustrated beautifully in the plate on the right. So we want the majority of what we're eating at every meal to be some combination of whole fiber foods, and the minority of what we're eating to be the foods with no fiber or very little fiber. And that plate on the right reminds me of something I've seen before.
Yeah, it's a 75% plate that we use. It's a 75% plate approach. It's what our goal is at Full Plate.
Exactly. We are so excited to be helping people to eat more whole fiber foods and actually helping them increase a healthy gut microbiome. So here's a graphic illustration that only 3 to 5% of Americans actually meet the minimum fiber recommendations. That's not even optimal, that's minimum. So there's a lot of room for improvement here. Here's the good news though. You can control what kind of microbes predominate in your gut, because you control what you put in your mouth, what you drink. And
that's good news.
Yes. And this is, you've probably seen this collage many times before. We love it. It's beautiful. You just want to focus on these foods. They look delicious. They taste delicious. The fresh fruits, the vegetables, the beans, the whole grains, small amounts of nuts and seeds, herbs. That's what you want to focus on. And you can start to shift. This is so exciting. You can start to shift your gut microbiome in a positive direction by adding fiber foods to your next meal. Like after this presentation, if you know you need to eat more fiber foods, add something to the very next meal you eat. And what research shows is in just 5 days of eating fiber foods, you can significantly impact in a big way your gut microbiome. Just 5 days. Now that's less than optimal, but that's amazing, right?
Right. Yeah, moving in the right direction is going to make a big difference compared to staying where you are. So 5 days, that's less than a week. That's great news, Diana.
It is.
What about probiotics?
Right. And so we have to talk about this briefly because it's a hot topic. So probiotics, that word refers to living, live microorganisms that are good for us. They're not dead ones. They're live microorganisms that are good for us. And we have 3 sources. First of all, we have the live beneficial bacteria that are already in our gut. And we've talked about how we can keep them there, how we can increase their amount, and how we can increase their diversity. That's the first source. The second source are probiotic supplements. Probiotic supplements are concentrated amounts of good gut bacteria. And there's a lot of great research showing that there are health benefits to probiotics. The important point to know is that they're species specific. So certain bacterial species are good for certain conditions. Other ones aren't good for that condition. You know, so if you want to take a probiotic, talk to your doctor about which supplement would be best for whatever challenge you are having, because their effects are specific. And, you know, this is important to remember and talk with your doctor about, because supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So you may not be getting the supplement, may not have what it says it has, but if you work with your doctor, he or she is going to know the best quality supplements and the best ones for you. And this last point is very important. You cannot fully optimize your bacterial diversity with probiotic supplements alone. So let's say you just keep eating your low fiber diet and you say to yourself, well, I'm just going to take probiotic supplements. First of all, there's not a great diversity in those supplements, right? I mean, you know, 12, 15 different bacterial species. I read that some scientific group has created a supplement with 115 different species, but remember there's 3 to 1,000, right? And here's the very important point about this. And, you know, Michelle, I'd like you to share it because you say it so well. Why can't just taking these supplements solve the problem?
Well, you're taking the supplements, but you're not feeding them. It's like throwing seeds in the ground. They're not the bacteria that you are taking. So if it's like putting seeds in the ground, but you never give them water and you never give them sunshine, they're not going to survive. Some of them may, against all odds, survive, but they're not going to thrive. So if you want your probiotics that you're taking to actually work, you also have to feed them those fiber foods that will help them to multiply and thrive. It's a two-piece process, right?
Right.
You're taking it in, but you also have to feed it once it's there.
Right. So you want to build a foundation of whole fiber foods and then add probiotics to that. And then I want you to add fermented foods. This is amazing. And I've been adding a bit of fermented foods every day. We now know from research that eating fermented foods increases the diversity of the gut bacteria. Remember, that's the essential principle number 2. So when we talk about fermented foods, we're talking about traditionally fermented foods. These are fermented in brine or salt water, not vinegar. Any fermented food, pickled or fermented in vinegar, the vinegar actually destroys the bacteria. So you're only going to get live microorganisms when you're eating a fermented food that is brine fermented. And you know, examples are sauerkraut and kimchi and fermented beets and pickles. And the amount of brine fermented foods is exploding in stores now. And then we know there are other types of fermented foods. These are not brine fermented, but they're fermented with different bacteria, different yeast, and different processes. And so, you know, yogurt is one, tempeh is fermented soybeans, miso is fermented soy paste, yogurt, kefir is lactic acid colonies and yeast that ferment milk, different kinds of milk, and kombucha is fermented tea. I just want to say something about the yogurt, the kefir, and the kombucha. They can often have a lot of sugar. So you want to be very careful, read the labels, check the serving size, and see, you want to avoid a lot of added sugar, right? Because too much added sugar actually has a negative impact on the gut microbiome. And I just want to say this one thing. You do not get very much alcohol in kombucha, in a serving of kombucha, but it is medically recommended if you've ever had an issue with alcohol abuse, don't use kombucha as your fermented food.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So now we are going to show you how easy it is to get 30 different fiber foods in a week. So Michelle, take it away here.
Yeah. So the goal is 30, right?
Yes.
Well, about
a general
6.
guideline.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So 6 in breakfast, oatmeal like this one. So you have steel cut oats. You can also do rolled oats. You have chia seed, blueberries, peaches, mint, and pine nuts. You can vary the nuts. You can vary the fruit. So you could just do oatmeal 3 times a week and still hit, you know, a big difference, six kinds of fiber foods every time. That's pretty fun.
Exactly. And let me talk about this one briefly. This is a casserole, a full plate casserole. I love this casserole. It's so easy and quick, and it tastes delicious. I often recommend it or post it in the Facebook community. So this has 6 fiber foods: the quinoa, the black beans, the corn, the cilantro. And then of course you can have a side, or I always add tomato and avocado. So there's 2 more fiber foods. And you know, if you have a side of vegetables with this, you're increasing the number of fiber foods.
Definitely. I like this Thanksgiving salad, which you can literally have any time of year. You don't have to wait for Thanksgiving. It has 4 fiber foods in it. It has kale, pomegranate, wild rice, and walnuts. And actually, there is more than that because of what's happening in the dressing too. I believe that we have garlic in the dressing.
Yes.
And there's also, I can't remember if it's cilantro or parsley, but there's also an herb in there. So, you know, think about your salads and how many fiber foods you can pack in them, because they're an easy source of variety for sure.
I love wild rice, and I love wild rice in this salad. It's amazing. And so here, look, here's an example of doing this in a restaurant, Michelle, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got 8 fiber foods, and this is done at Chili's. We pulled a chicken dinner. I think it was like a fiesta salsa chicken or something like that. And then we added sides to it. So you have the broccoli, you have avocado. You can see the little slices over there. Then you have the spinach, garlic, and tomato. You have the onion that's in the salsa. You have black beans and cilantro. And I believe there's probably also jalapenos in that salsa that are missing. So that's 9 fiber foods that you can get.
Yeah.
Just even when you go out to eat, look for those fiber foods.
Exactly. And then here's our, I think this is our last one. Tell us about.
Here's a burger meal. Even when you have a cookout, you can look for those colorful fiber foods. You can add more lettuce, tomatoes, and onions to your burger. You can even do avocado instead of mayo. It gives that creaminess, that rich, creamy flavor to it. If you have a salad, this salad has corn, berries in it. It has greens. And then you have baked beans, which are usually a better idea than having fries. They're a little bit healthier. So you can add baked beans. And then, of course, you have the large slice of watermelon, which makes my mouth water right now just looking at it.
Yum, yum. And then I'll quickly, a spaghetti dinner can also be a fiber food feast. You can use whole wheat spaghetti and the marinara sauce has tomato in it. And then you can have sides of vegetables. This is cauliflower, carrots, and green beans, but you can do whatever, vegetables you want. They can be cooked or they can be raw or a combination. And then, to keep the fiber food count up, have a fresh fruit. Like we saw watermelon in the previous meal. This is berries, but you could use whatever fruit is in season, whatever fruit you like.
Yeah, so think about it. Ask yourself this question, maybe after this workshop, what fiber foods have you eaten today, yesterday, this week? But really, more importantly, think about how you're going to add more fiber foods to what you're eating. Maybe the rest of today, maybe tomorrow. Again, as you're thinking about this, the rest of this week, this next weekend, as you're going grocery shopping, reach for those fiber foods, add them to your cart. If they're in your cart, they're going to be in your fridge. And then from the fridge, it's easier to make them, into food and eat them.
Exactly. Good. So here are scientific references. And as you know, we're all about whole fiber foods. So tell us, Michelle, what is...
We are all about fiber foods. So all of you that have a membership with Full Plate Living already have access to our free programs. And each program shows you and teaches you how to add more fiber foods to what you're already eating. If you don't have a membership yet and you're just learning about Full Plate, all you have to do is go to fullplateliving.org and just sign up for the free membership. It's that easy. Once you're signed up, then you have access to all of the programs, and you can start a program and slowly learn how to add more fiber to what you're already eating. We're so excited that our nonprofit foundation has made this available to everybody at no cost. We're very excited to do that.
Exactly.
So Diana, thank you for talking to us about a healthy gut microbiome today. It was a pleasure to have you with us.
And it was a pleasure to be here.